Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Psionic Podcast, Powering Movement. My name is Maddie Niebank, and I'm your host. Today, I'm extremely excited to share with you all a conversation that I recently had with Jane Addams. Jane Addams is a stroke survivor, author, reporter who has written extensively about her own stroke recovery journey. I recently sat down with her in honor of Stroke Awareness Day on October 29th, and we chatted a bit about her incredible mindset with stroke recovery and her book of hope. Excited to share this conversation with you all. Hi, Jane. Thank you so much for coming on to the new Psionic podcast and being our first guest as we get ready for Stroke Awareness Day.
Hey, Maddie,
Welcome,
thanks so
Jane.
much. Thank you for having me.
I'm super excited to get into it and talk with you a little bit about your own experience with stroke. And I know everyone here is going to be super inspired by your perspective on hope and taking control of your situation after stroke. But before we get into that, I would actually kind of like to first get a little bit of background information. Could you talk to us a little bit about what your life was like before the stroke?
Sure. It was very active, as most people's lives are. I was a 60-year-old news reporter and mother of twins, living here with my wife, Crystal, in Berkeley, California. I swam on a swim team 3 days a week, and the other days I walked with some friends from the neighborhood and
Nice.
and just loved to move and assumed that would always be true. And that,
And then, so it sounds like you were quite active before the stroke happened.
yes,
Like to walk around, do all of those things. Can you talk to us a little bit about how the stroke happened? Do you
sure,
remember, what was the last thing you remember?
sure. I was with some friends. We were up in Lake Tahoe, so away from where we live for the weekend, and we were having lunch. We had just gone for a hike up in the mountains. It was lovely, and this sort of surreal, almost dissociated state came over me where I thought, wow, something is really wrong here. And then um, a friend of mine across the table said, "Are you okay?" And
Mm,
I said, "No." And then people sprang into action. Fortunately, my wife, Crystal, worked in construction where they do a lot of safety training. So she knew to look for the signs of stroke and asked me to raise my arms and legs. And I
Wait,
couldn't,
so Jane, was this while you were literally hiking in Lake Tahoe?
no, we were having lunch after the hike.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Yes. And so she did a stroke assessment of me and then 911, and I failed. Of course, was having a stroke, and they called 911. And then, fortunately, another friend there was very bossy in a way and convinced the EMTs that I had to be airlifted to a stroke center, which was really good advice because then
Mm.
I could get the brain blood clot dissolving drug at a stroke center. So I was put on a helicopter and flown out of there to Reno to a stroke center and got the treatment within an hour and a half of having the stroke.
Wow. I mean, and as we know, like the timing makes all the difference. Like it sounds like you were very lucky in the sense that you were with people, your wife, your friends who knew to recognize the signs, knew something was not right, and knew to call to have you airlifted to a stroke center.
Yes, it was really good advice because the EMTs wanted to send me to a local clinic that didn't have any
Mm.
CAT scan equipment that's necessary to diagnose the stroke. So I was lucky to get immediately the right care. On the
And
flip
did you know what was happening? Like were you conscious of the fact that this is a stroke or did you just felt unwell?
um, it occurred to me when I couldn't move that I was having a stroke. And almost immediately, my denial was kind of at war with the idea. And I thought, I don't want to be having a stroke. I can't be having a stroke. At the same time, I'm having a stroke. So both thoughts were going through my head.
And then so you said you got airlifted to Reno. What happened once you got there?
Then I had the CAT scan. I was having an ischemic stroke. They gave me that the blood clot medicine, dissolving medicine, has changed its name. It used to have a different acronym, but whatever it was, I got that. So that was great. And then after I had that, friends were still with me in the emergency room, and the stroke reversed itself, and I could move my arm and my leg on my left side. A friend took a video of it. And as you can imagine, I thought, wow, this is going to be a great story when I get back to work. This is fabulous. And then it went away. Then my limbs just fell down onto the table and I couldn't move my left side of my body anymore.
So you became hemiplegic on the left side of your body.
That's right.
That's, it's same for me. I was always left side dominant, left hand dominant, and
Mm.
I'm now also left side affected after the stroke. And I remember waking up from my own emergency brain surgery just thinking, what the heck? Like, I was running 5 miles yesterday and now I can't lift my leg or my arm. I lost all of my vision on my left side. I can't see anything. Like, this is crazy. What was your first moment like when you woke up and came to and realized your life was never going to be the same?
It was frankly a lot of despair. It was devastating. And I uh, fought against the idea of accepting it. I thought I was in good shape, all these things, as if they make any difference. But they probably help overall, but I was trying to think of reasons that it wouldn't be so bad. I had the medicine quickly, so this was probably not going to be a big deal. And so I was constantly trying to titrate how much of the information I could take in because as you mentioned, it is a lot to absorb. Of course, your life just changed on one day. One life ended and a new life began.
So how exactly did this stroke affect you? Physically, cognitively, mentally, emotionally?
So physically, hemiplegic on the left side, so unable to move my fingers or my hand or
Mhm.
my arm, unable to lift my toes up, uh, walk. I couldn't walk. I was in a wheelchair. Um, some speech difficulty, but not major. And left side neglect is what they call it. So
Yeah, I have that too.
you have that also.
Oh yeah.
I just really avoid, even still, it's 8 years after the stroke. I avoid looking to the left side.
Wait, when was yours? Because mine was also 8 years ago, Jane.
Oh, September 30th, 2017.
Mine was May 30th,
Ah,
2017. So we're kind of stroke twins.
yes, we are.
Did the doctors ever figure out what caused your stroke? Because it seems like it came on
No,
rather suddenly.
it was suddenly. I didn't have any of the classic warning signs in terms of health conditions. No, they never figured it out. And since
Wow.
then, I've come to realize or become aware that many people don't have any classic symptoms and it just
Mm-hmm.
happens. How about you? Did they figure out why it happened?
Yeah, so to make a long story short, ever since I was 7, I'd gotten super bad, debilitating migraines, which culminated in a series of migraines that lasted 24 days straight when I was 15. I went to
Whoa.
the ER many, many times. Nothing was working. Eventually, I got an MRI, which revealed I had a rare condition known as an AVM, an arteriovenous
Mhm.
malformation, which is an abnormal tangle of blood vessels in the brain that don't have capillaries. So,
Mhm.
I started consulting with tons of neurosurgeons. Most of them told me your AVM is so big, it's considered inoperable. We don't feel comfortable with this. A smaller percentage said it's so big, this is a serious threat. You need to get it taken care of immediately. So, I was getting contrasting opinions, but I decided I didn't like the notion of having a ticking time bomb in my brain.
Mhm.
So I said after I graduate college and finish my education, I'm going in for scheduled brain surgery. I graduated from Georgetown in 2017, and 10 days later, after my graduation, I go in for the brain surgery, but the pre-op causes a blood clot which bursts. So that I had mine when I was in the hospital awaiting a scheduled brain surgery to
Oh, wow.
to take care of this. And I always love asking whenever I interview people about their stroke story. That's why I love to ask about, like, what was that moment like for you when you first woke up to your new reality? I remember for me, it was very like scary. What the heck? How did this happen? I did nothing to deserve this. I was a kid. I was literally a student yesterday. Why am I? And I was supposed to turn the page and launch my new chapter of life in my professional
Mhm.
career. And then now I have this huge setback. And I think similar to you, I had to go through lots of therapies. I did cognitive, speech, physical, occupational, all to help me gain back the basic skills of living that I'd once taken for granted. How was your therapy journey like? Which ones do you still do therapy, or what kinds
I
have you
still
done?
do, and I was very lucky. I was inpatient up in Vallejo, California, at a facility that was very good, or at least very good on the leg. My experience with people working on the arm has not been that great in the initial
Hmm.
phases, because for me, spasticity, the tightness in the muscle, is a
Yes.
huge issue.
Oh,
And there
yeah.
really wasn't very much stretching going on in the early days, which would have helped a lot. So I ended up having a lot of contractions in the muscles. And so after that, I had outpatient, which was mediocre. It was, 20 minutes twice a week.
Mm.
It was very superficial. And then I saw a doctor who said, get a power wheelchair, pretty much saying, forget about ever walking. So that was horrible. But fortunately, I was connected with a facility here that specializes in neurological physical therapy. And so I found some caretakers who were just outstanding physical therapists and occupational therapists.
And you know why this is amazing to me to hear, Jane, because it seems to me like you have such a great perspective on life after the stroke, even given such a terrible, devastating thing happening to you. So I'm wondering, did you always have a good outlook, or did you go through a phase of denial? And then what was that transition like?
Yes, I think the emotional part for me has been the most intense, intense as the physical is, just dealing with the fact that I don't have my former life at all. And just coming to accept and love the body I have was a really difficult journey. And my daughter gave me a sticker that says, disability is not a dirty word. And I have that on my computer, which I really like, because like many people in this culture, I took for granted I would be able-bodied and that
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't know the first thing about being a disabled person, or that having a disability didn't mean that I was doomed to some unhappy life. So I had to work through, with help, professional help, all those stereotypes that I carried in my head, and learn to accept the love that was being shown to me. That was also a little bit hard, frankly. So many people were kind and loving afterwards, and it was shocking to me, but lovely. But it was a challenge also to take in.
Yeah, I think I agree for myself. Like, that's been one of the hardest things. I was always a positive person before the stroke, but immediately after, it's hard. You don't want to accept that this is your reality. I thought I might just wake up one day and be back to normal. I didn't want to put in the work or do the rehab and, do all these dumb exercises for things like cognitive therapy, especially. I thought, why do I have to go to these lessons to learn how to organize my thoughts or record my appointments? But like, it was a necessary evil, and it was something I needed to do to help me get to where I am today and to be able to move forward. And it sounds like maybe you had a similar journey of like getting back to cultivating this sense of hope for your future. And I love what you said about how disability is not a dirty word, because that is certainly a realization that I think sometimes takes time to come to. But then when you realize that this isn't necessarily the end of our lives having a stroke, it's just a new beginning, right?
Yes, yes. I remember I was talking with my son, and he was saying that he missed my old self. He missed me staying up late, cleaning the kitchen. I don't know, for some reason that stuck with him, and getting up early and going to the swim team, and just missed the movement in the house. And
Mm-hmm.
I said, well, it's a different life, but it's a good life.
Was
And
there a specific moment for you, Jane, when you realized that there was hope and that this wasn't just an ending?
I think there were a couple of moments. One was when I started going to physical therapy and I came in contact with other people who'd had strokes. So that sense of not being alone and seeing other people struggling. On the one hand, it was sobering that they were still struggling because in my mind, as you mentioned, I was hoping this thing would just resolve itself a year or two, maybe, and then I'd
Yes.
be back to where I was. So that was startling to see people still struggling on for years. But in the second moment was I I go to the Y in Berkeley and they have a warm pool there that is used by a lot of people who are rehabbing or have a disability or an illness or
Mm-hmm.
are aging. And to be in that community where we have people with MS, with strokes, with heart attacks, rheumatoid arthritis, chronic pain, it was just lovely because we have a fun time in the pool. We enjoy each other.
I love
It was
that.
a sense of community and and caring and acceptance. So
And you know what? I think that's a great point because community and support really is everything, and it can be what moves the needle in your recovery journey. But I
yes,
know that not everyone has a built-in support system. It sounds like you yourself have a supportive wife and kids and like Y community and therapists, but I know that not a lot of people have that. So I like that you're sharing about, how there are these other outlets that you found to be able to foster community and connect with survivors.
I really seek out people with disabilities to tell you the truth.
Hmm.
If I'm in a group and there's somebody who looks visibly disabled or has an invisible disability, but I know about it, I will try to cultivate their friendship because it's such a commonality and it's an understanding. It's a precious thing to me.
Can you talk to us a little bit about? I'm curious too, just from you talked a little bit about your family and how they've helped you in this journey. Could you talk about them or how they've been most supportive of you, and I guess other way around, you to
Uh,
them?
yes, very lucky. It's interesting. My physical therapist, who's been doing this for 35 years with stroke patients, she really believes that if you have a good support system at home, what she has seen is that you do a lot better. And I don't know how you create that if you don't have it, but I've been lucky to have that. So my wife is very patient and um, watchful of me, and my son
Hmm.
also, and my daughter. My daughter will walk with me because I don't walk very quickly. So when she's home visiting now, she lives in New York now. She'll go for walks with me around the block, and I so appreciate that. And my son is always looking to make sure I'm safe and looking at obstacles and um,
Yeah,
I
especially
know.
with the left neglect.
Yes,
That could be
exactly.
hard.
I
That we know.
know. I know. And
Do
it's
you have
been
any movement related goals or anything that you work towards on a daily basis?
uh pain-free is my goal, to tell you the truth. So a lot of stretching and strengthening. And lately I've been trying to stretch my right side, which is the unaffected side, but
Hmm.
my right arm is overused because my left,
Right.
so it's been bothering me a little bit lately. So I've been focusing on that. Um, and I'm still working with my hand and I hold a carrot and chop it and that kind of
I do the same thing. It's that's
do.
that's such a good practice. Yep.
Yes.
Same with like opening doors or little cabinets in my home.
Mm.
Use it or lose it, as they say.
Right. Right. So I'm hopeful for that. And yeah, just trying to walk, balance remains an issue and trying to walk on my left side. And then of
Hmm.
course is the pain also if I can get my weight on my left side.
Yeah, the weight bearing exercises for both the leg and the arm I found to be also quite critical and helping me to recover as much as I can. I'm curious though, because now you mentioned you're just a little over 8 years out from your stroke. Looking back on all that you've achieved and how far you've come in these past 8 years, what is one piece of advice, Jane, that you could give to someone who's maybe earlier on in their stroke recovery journey or maybe struggling with mindset?
My advice or my suggestion or what I learned was you can survive this. I think I felt at first, I can't survive this. I'm doomed, just very depressed, negative thinking. But come to find out that I actually can survive it, and I did survive it. So just remember and I'm lucky that I find small moments of joy. Just even lying on the couch, I lie on my left side, which is very comforting for my left side,
Nice.
and watch, a baseball game with my wife or a sports game.
Hmm.
I think this is pretty good. This is not bad. Just moments where I enjoy life quite a bit.
I love that because it makes me think about how there's so much pleasure and enjoyment in just the simple things. And when you
Yeah.
have a stroke, you can kind of realize that more. Like, I think about it all the time. I shouldn't be here. Yes, I can't like use my arm as well as I used to, or, run or do all these things that I was doing with my active lifestyle before. But instead of focusing on how I can't do things I want to do, why don't I focus instead on the things that
Mhm.
I can today that will get me closer to where I want to be?
Yes. And I think for me, I feel much more connected to the greater suffering in humankind, our common humanity. I think, like many people, I had sort of an able-bodied arrogance, really, that I would always be fine. And I wasn't thinking, but now that I have a disability, I am more tuned into the burdens that everybody has.
And it sounds to me like you were very active and mobile prior to your injury. Do you
Yeah.
think that that background and having an active lifestyle has helped you in your recovery journey for your mobility?
I think it has because I expect myself to be able to do things. So, one great thing I've been able to do is travel quite a bit. So, that's been really fun that
We
I
are
can.
like kindred spirits like that because I love to travel.
You do? Where have you been?
Oh, the better question, Jane, is where haven't I been? It was like one of the most important things for me after the stroke was become independent, live by myself, not have to have like my family take care of me, and then get back to working full time and traveling. And I've done all of those things. And
Mm,
where did I go? I've gone, I mean, just this year, I did Vietnam. I went a couple times to Spain, Mexico
wow.
City, Puerto Rico, a bunch of places within the US. I've been to Bali, Thailand, all sorts of places. Like to me, I think traveling is a great way to experience the world and open your eyes to how big our world is and what's all out there.
And how's your mobility when you're trying to get around a place like Bali or Vietnam?
I'll be honest, it's not as accessible as some other places I've been
Mhm.
to, but it's fine. So mobility wise, I do not use like a cane or a wheelchair. I don't use any type of mobility aid like that, but I do have foot drop. So that's why I wear the neural sleeve to help me
Mhm.
with my foot drop, but I don't need like anything else in addition to that.
Mm.
Um, so I would say I'm pretty mobile. I do at least 10,000 steps a day and I live in New York City, so that's not too hard to do just walking around the city. Um, but yeah, you got to be careful. I'm hemiplegic on my left side, so sometimes it's a little challenging in Bali. I remember there were a bunch of stairs without a railing, so that was like
Mm.
an adjustment for me to figure out my balance and how I'm going to be stepping up all these steps
Mhm.
without a railing or maybe using the help of like a friend who's with me or something.
Mhm. Right.
And I know, so you, Jane, yourself are a neural sleeve customer and you wear it for the foot drop as well. So could you just talk a little bit maybe about your experience with your mobility with the neural sleeve?
It has really transformed my walking. My physical therapist read about it in the San Francisco Chronicle and thought of me and thought it might help. And so I got in touch and I use it now. It makes walking so much more pleasant. It fires up the different muscles in my left leg. and gives it a boost so I can raise my toes. That's mostly my issue is keeping my toe up. And
Me too. That's a big issue.
right. So I do the exercises that are part of the app that help. And then I use it all the time when I walk. I use it all the time, period.
And it sounds like you go walking quite a bit.
I walk as much as I can because it is the use it or lose it thing. But when I'm traveling, I'm actually going to Ireland on Monday, which is really
Oh,
thrilling.
awesome. Well, we're really
Yeah.
just getting this interview right in then.
I have a mobility scooter now that I use, especially when I'm in a city and I can
And you
go
can
around,
travel with it to
travel
Ireland?
with it. It folds up like a stroller. It's very lightweight.
Oh, awesome.
Yes, so that's been a real help too.
What brings you to Ireland?
I'm going to a writing retreat actually, which would be
Ooh.
lovely in the rural Ireland, about 2 hours south of Dublin.
How
So
long will that be for?
we'll be there for a week total. So
And do you have any writing goals while you're there?
I do, and that's one thing the stroke has led me to. Before I was a reporter and nonfiction writer, and now I'm
Hmm.
writing fiction because I can't do any of that work anymore. I can't run around and report on news, but I can get back to fiction. I'd gone to graduate school in fiction writing prior to this, so now I'm getting back into that. So that's
So this is kind of like your first foray, so to speak, into the fiction writing world
not my
since your
totally
injury.
first, but since the injury, yes.
Yeah, since your stroke.
Right.
Oh
Yes,
my
I'm
gosh,
thrilled
that's
about
that's
that.
so exciting.
It
So
is
you're going
nice,
on a writing retreat.
yes, to see how the stroke has led me in different directions and has done for me what I couldn't do for myself, which is give myself time to read and write, because I have slowed down tremendously since the stroke because I can't run around anymore. And I'm a more on time person now. I used to be always a little bit late, but now I can't rush out the door, so I'm better at planning.
This seems to me like one of those blessing in disguise situations for like obviously a stroke sucks, but it sounds like a lot of great things have come out of it for you in terms of taking stock of your life and slowing down and keep getting a better pace of living and being able to focus on the things that are really important to you.
Yes, it's true. And I think everybody gets dealt some blows in life, and it's been sobering just to look around and see how people are coping with them. But there's a lot going on out there that we don't always see, and a lot of courage and resilience.
But one thing I like to say is it's about how we bounce back from it, right?
Hmm.
Obstacles are opportunities, is what I always say. And while a stroke certainly is a huge obstacle to all of us, no matter how it affects us, there's no denying it. It is at the same time an opportunity for us to perhaps reignite interests or discover new passions and pursue those.
Hmm.
And on that note, actually, I have my final question for you, Jane. And this is something that I've been asking people at the end of every podcast episode. So I would like to ask you as well. What inspires you to take the next step, be it in movement or in life?
Hmm. Well, my children, I would say, I mean, one of my early walking goals was before the stroke, my daughter Claire and I had walked the whole island of Manhattan well, not entirely, it's exaggeration, but from the Whitney Museum up to the Upper East Side. It was
That's pretty far.
it was
That's pretty
pretty
far.
far. It was dozens and dozens of blocks. And then after the stroke, obviously, I couldn't do that, but I was determined to walk. And I did go back and visit her in New York, and just walking from her apartment to restaurants and on a warm summer night, I thought, well, this is great. I'm here in Manhattan walking with my daughter, and that's was one of my goals. So my kids wanting to be there for them and uh, just being inspired by how courageous they are in facing life.
I love that. That's amazing. And I agree completely that family is a huge inspiring factor for me as well. So thank you so much, Jane, for coming on to this podcast and
Thank
sharing your
you, Abby.
experience for Stroke Awareness Day on October 29th. Thank you. And I wish you the best of luck at your writing retreat. in a few
Thank you.
days.
Yes, in a few days. Thanks so much, Maddie. Pleasure
Thank you,
talking.
Jane.
Bye-bye.